Hi everybody. In our previous series of videos in this Chapter 14 study guide, we worked a number of problems in connection with bonds payable. In this video, we'll work some exercises with notes payable. You should write your answers to these exercises on a piece of scratch paper, or if you wish, you can download the Excel file embedded on the page directly above this video. Let's start out with something easy. Lambert Motors. Lambert Motors Company issued a 2-year, 12%, $600,000 note in exchange for a tract of land. The current market rate of interest is 12%. Prepare the journal entry to record the purchase of the land. Debit land, credit notes payable, $600,000. Now we need to prepare a journal entry to record the interest paid at the end of the first year. This is a 2-year loan. Principal is not being paid, but we are paying interest at the end of the first year. Principal of $600,000 times 12% interest rate equals $72,000 of interest expense for the first year. Debit interest expense, $72,000. Credit cash, $72,000. Just out of curiosity, does anybody know how much the interest expense will be for year 2? Did you say $72,000? The answer is $72,000 because no principal is being paid. So next year we will still have $600,000 of principal times 12%. Second year's interest will be $72,000. Sierra Company is a little bit more involved, a little bit more difficult. So let's work with it together. Sierra Company acquired office equipment with a fair value of $94,643 by issuing a 1-year, $100,000 note. The stated interest on the note is 6%. So the maker of this note, the person from whom we bought the office equipment, will expect to be paid at the end of the year the $100,000 in principal plus $6,000 in interest. That's $100,000 times 6%. But before we get to that part, let's prepare the journal entry to record the purchase of the equipment. We need to debit office equipment for the fair value of the equipment, $94,643. We need to credit notes payable for the $100,000, and the difference between the two is a debit to discount on notes payable, $5,357. The next thing we need to do is to prepare the journal entry at the end of the first year, the end of year 1, to record the payment of the loan and record interest at the end of the year using the effective interest method. And that's where it gets very, very interesting. The effective interest method is not 6%. 6% is the amount of interest in cash that we're going to pay to the maker of the loan. We're going to record our interest expense based on an effective interest rate. So before we can prepare this journal entry, we need to go through a number of steps to calculate the effective interest rate. I think this is really cool. So let's work through those steps together. In order to calculate the effective interest rate, we first need to calculate the discount rate that equates to the present value of the debt, that's the $94,643, and its $106,000 future value to be paid. That's the principal plus that 6% or $6,000 of interest that we're actually going to pay to the maker of the note. So $94,643 divided by 106,000 equals 0.8929. Then we need to go to the present value tables, Table 2, to find the effective interest rate. This is a one-year loan, so n equals 1. We're going to read row 1, and we're reading row 1 because n equals 1, to the right until we spot a factor close to our factor of 0.8929. And where the factor intersects on row 1, you will see a 12% interest rate. That will be the effective interest rate. But don't take my word for it. Let's look at the present value table and see this 12% with this factor where n equals 1. Present value table 2, n equals 1, and let's read across till we find our factor of 0.8929. 0.8929 is what we're looking for. And we're not even close yet. I know if I spread this video out further to the right, these numbers will be so small we won't even be able to read them. So bear with me a moment and I'll move the entire video screen over. So the same present value table 2, reading row 1 over to the right, still looking for our factor. And there it is. 0.8929 is close enough to that factor, which is in the 12% column. So the effective interest rate is 12%. Now we know that the effective interest rate is 12%, and we can now calculate our interest expense. The present value of the debt is $94,643 times the 12% effective interest rate means that our interest expense is $11,357. Now we have the numbers available to do this journal entry. Let's pick out the numbers that we're going to need to do the journal entry to pay off the loan and record our interest expense. We know our interest expense is $11,357. We know that we're going to have to make a check payable to the maker of the note for $106,000. We also know that we're paying off the note that's recorded on the books, so we're going to want to debit notes payable, and we're also going to want to get rid of this discount on notes payable once we pay it off, so we're going to need to credit that account for the 5357. And those are the pieces that make up the journal entry to record the payment of this loan. Go ahead and write the journal entry, then start the video again to check your work. Debit interest expense, $11,357. Debit notes payable, $100,000. Credit discount on notes payable, $5357, and credit cash, $106,000. I just think that's a complicated, challenging, and fun problem. Well, I think that it might be good to take a bit of a break. Let's do a 5-point bonus break. I will award 5 points, bonus points, to the first 20 students who send me a picture of a pretty butterfly. So don't send me a dead one, don't send me a ratty one. Send me a picture of a pretty butterfly. And that needs to be to me before Sunday, before the exam is due. Sunday, October, would that be the 11th of October? At 11:59 p.m. So the first 20 students, pretty picture of a butterfly, to me by October 11th at 11:59 p.m. My preference is that you send it through Canvas. I will find it buried in my emails, but Canvas, I always spot it. Okay. The last problem we need to work on is Anderson. It's not as difficult as Sierra Company. Anderson, Inc. purchased a building by issuing a 3-year installment note. The note is to be repaid in equal installments of $1 million per year, beginning 1 year hence. The current market rate of interest is 12%. So the first thing you're going to need to do is to calculate the value at which we will record the building. It's a present value of an annuity, and it's an ordinary annuity, not an annuity due, where I equals 12 and N equals 3. So go ahead and do that calculation and record the journal entry to record the purchase of the land. Present value of an ordinary annuity where N equals 3 and I equals 12%. The factor is 2.40183. Multiply that times 1 of our $1 million annual installments. And the value then of the building is $2,401,830. Debit building credit notes payable for $2,401,830. Prepare the journal entry to record the interest paid and the $1 million installment at the end of the first year. I'll give you a hint. You need to calculate interest on the principal balance of the loan before this payment at 12% per year, and any amount that you do not apply to interest should be applied to principal. So write your journal entry, and when you finish, start the video again to check your work. So the first year's interest expense is $288,220. That's the principal balance of $2,401,830 times 12%. Debit interest expense, $288,220. Debit notes payable, $711,780 to balance. And credit cash, $1 million. That means that after the payment at the end of year 1, our principal balance was decreased. It was $2,401,830. Subtract $711,780 to calculate the new interest balance at the end of the first year after that first payment, and that's the amount on which the second year's interest is calculated. So do that calculation and prepare the journal entry to record the interest and installment paid at the end of the second year. After making this payment at the end of the first year, our new principal balance is $1,690,050 times 12%. Year 2's interest expense is $202,806. Debit interest expense, $202,806. Debit notes payable to balance, $797,194. And credit cash, $1 million. Well, that's the end of this video, and it's also the end of the Chapter 14 Study Guide videos. I'll see you next time for Chapter 15.